Hello everyone, in today's video we'll discuss how to write a good mains answer, and in this video we'll be discussing regarding the constraints as well as the important things that you need to keep in mind while you're writing a mains answer, and we'll discuss a highly probable model question for your 2018 mains examination. So let's start with the constraints. So while writing a mains examination, you should understand that you'll be having two constraints. The first one time and the second one space. I mean, each GS paper they will be having 250 marks and we'll be having 20 questions and 3 hours will be the time limit, right? So as per the current pattern, we are having 10 mark question and another 10 15 mark question. The word limit for the 10 mark question is 150 and the word limit for the 15 mark question is 250. So going through the word limit, we might think the word limit is the constraint. But think about this. Actually, will the evaluator, will they be able to count each of the, the word limit for each of the question, each of the answer? Probably no, right? So, word limit is not the actual constraint, rather than it is a time. So, if you are overwriting an answer, it's actually what happens is that you will be losing out time to address another question. So, if you're perfecting one answer, you probably will get more, one or 1.5 marks extra. But at the same time, if you're leaving out another question, you're entirely losing the base mark for a question completely, right? So your primary aim while writing a mains examination should be to complete your paper entirely, in the sense answering all the questions and giving an average answer for entire question, rather than writing say perfect 10 answers and leaving out the next 10 answers. You should be aiming to write or complete the paper within the time, right? So time is the first constraint and the second one is space. Okay, so the answer booklet will be having the questions printed and the space will be provided. If you are having say the 150 word question, the 10 mark question will be having two sides of an answer sheet, and like the 250 word question, the 15 mark question will be having one more extra side. Okay, so the space is actually constraint as well as the time. It is not, not the word limit as it seems. The words, nobody is going to actually count the word, rather than if you're overwriting, you'll lose the time to address another question. So first of all, keep these constraints in mind. So while you're writing an answer, should be writing in a way that you'll be able to complete the paper within the time. So as I've already said, the 2018 mains examination, the pattern changed slightly, and we had two kinds of questions: the 150 word limit question and the 250 word question. So ideally, to address a 10 mark 150 word question, should be completing your answer within 7 minutes, and like the 250 word 15 mark question should try to complete it within the 10 minutes. So probably if you're writing or if you're taking 10 minutes for the 10 mark question, you lose time to address another question. So that's a very important aspect, so keep that in mind. Even when you're writing individual answers, should be developing an answer writing style in a way that you'll be able to complete your answers within 7 minutes if it's a 10 mark question, and within 10 minutes if it's a 150 word question. Okay, so moving on to the next one, what are the, how to write a perfect answer. So everyone will be writing answer in a different style. Certain person will be writing in paragraph form, another person will be using say point wise form, or another person will be using pictures or flowchart or whatever, right? So there is no clearly laid down rules to follow while writing an answer, but there are two important aspects you need to keep in mind. The first one is addressing the question. So if you're writing an answer and you're leaving out the major parts of the question, you won't be getting marks. For example, consider a model question. Bring out the challenges associated with monsoon prediction as well as the techniques associated with the monsoon prediction. So in this one, the two major aspects are challenges and the techniques associated with the monsoon prediction. So suppose if it's a 10 mark question, you're writing say 130 words for the challenges and you're using say 30 words to address the prediction techniques. So probably you will not get enough marks, or if you're only writing the challenges associated with the monsoon prediction, you won't get the marks. The 5 marks will be entirely lost there. So when you're reading a question itself, you should break down the question and you should understand that what is being actually asked here. So you should ask this one question to yourself. Okay, what is being asked here actually? And the major parts or the major aspects of the question, all the major aspects should be addressed in the question. Otherwise, you will be losing out marks for an aspect. If you're not addressing it, you'll be losing out the marks entirely. In this example I have told here, the prediction techniques as well as the challenges. If you're not writing the prediction techniques, you'll be there itself, you'll be losing entirely 5 marks. So no matter how perfectly you are writing the challenges associated with monsoon prediction, maximum you will be getting 3 to 4 marks. Okay, so the first and primary thing should be addressing the question. And whether you're writing it, a correct statement, if it's not relevant from the perspective or the context of the question, you're not going to fetch good marks. So addressing the question should be the primary thing that you should do while you're writing an answer. Okay, and one strategy you can you can follow in order to address the question or in order not to deviate from a question is to spend at least 40 seconds. Initial 40 seconds should be spent on thoroughly reading the question and understanding what is being asked here. Okay, so for that, while reading the question, you can divide or you can break down your question into different aspects. As in the model question, here I had told you the challenges and the prediction techniques associated with monsoon. Okay, so there the important aspects of the question are challenges and prediction. Probably the another question can be like that, the monsoon prediction each year is way off the off mark. Discuss. In that regard, there are no clear-cut aspect for the statement. So we should be dividing the statement into different aspects. Why it is off mark, why the predictions are off mark. Or in other words, we have to write the challenges. What are the techniques associated with the prediction and what are the solutions for that, right? So each and every answer should be breaking it down into different aspects and you should be addressing it by giving proper words for it. For proper words should be used to address the major aspects of the question. So addressing the question should be a primary aim. No matter no matter whether if you are writing a correct statement or a beautifully written paragraph, if it's not relevant from the context of the question, you're not going to fetch enough mark. Now the second thing is you have to understand that the answer is being corrected by an evaluator who is not sector specialist, or for example, if you're considering the geography answer, the GS1 geography answers are not corrected by any geography professor or anyone, rather than a journalist person is correcting your answer. So there is always a subjectiveness is there. Unlike your prelims, which are the answer sheets are corrected by the OMR, right? Their OMR sheet. Unlike this, subjectiveness is there while correcting your answers. So you should be making it as easy as possible, for your evaluator to correct the answer, right? Should be making it really easy for the evaluator. Should keep in mind, your answer sheet is your representation. The answer sheet is representing your knowledge, what kind of person you are, all these things your answer sheet is representing, and the evaluator is judging you through your answer sheet. So you should be making it really easy for the evaluator, should be projecting whatever you are through your answer sheet. So there are various things you can do, certain habits you can do or follow in order to do this. Okay, so before going to these tips, each evaluator, they will be having an answer key with them. What are the major aspects of the question, and these are the keys for this. If the keys are there, you can give mark. It will be like that, right? But that being said, subjectiveness will be deciding to 2 to 3 marks. So 2 to 3 marks will be given based on the subjectiveness, and this is where it is important to impress the evaluator. So first of all, we'll start with structure. How to structure an answer properly. So I would say, in a general thing, I would say, you can structure an answer as into 3 parts: introduction, body part, as well as conclusion. Introduction in the sense, it depends on each and every question. It's a general pattern you can follow for any answer. So introduction in the sense should be writing the major context. You shouldn't be jumping into your answer, rather than you should be introducing the topic. And what do you think? How much words should be used for it? Not more than 20 words or maximum 25 words. So within say 1 or 2 lines, you should be introducing your answer. If a question is regarding explain the factors necessary for the formation of ocean currents and bring out their effects. So in this regard, your introduction should be, what do you mean by ocean currents? right? You can always start your answer by saying what is that concept, or you can bring in some historical aspect or whatever, right? So whatever thing is relevant from that question, from the perspective of that question, should be writing an introduction with not more than 25 words. Okay, and while writing the body part, coming back to the example I had told you, the model question, the prediction techniques as well as the challenges associated with monsoon. So here the body part should be giving more words and you should be addressing the prediction techniques as well as challenges should be written as the body paragraphs, right? And you can either write paragraph or you can bring in points or whatever style you want to follow, right? The body part should be addressing the major aspect of the question, right? In the sense, whatever points will be there in the answer key, that should be written as the body part, right? And the next thing is the conclusion part. So conclusion is really important while writing a mains answer. I'll tell you why. Think about from the perspective of an evaluator. Evaluator will be reading your conclusion, and that will be the last thing an evaluator will be reading before giving you mark for individual answers. So it is really important that you're concluding with keeping in mind the important aspects of the question. So each and every question will be asked in certain aspect. So that important aspect should be discussing and your perspective should be brought out into the conclusion. I'm not saying each and every question you should be writing conclusion, especially in the case of geography question, explain the factors necessary for the formation of ocean current. If this is a question, shouldn't be writing a proper conclusion, shouldn't be giving 50 words for conclusion, because your perspective is not being asked there. You're writing there whatever are the factors influencing the ocean currents, which are already understood or already laid down knowledge or fact you're bringing there. So your perspective is not being asked there. In that regard, you can cut short the word limit you're giving for the the answer, right? For the conclusion. But in other scenarios where your perspective is being asked, for example, you are given say one line and you are being asked to discuss. For example, climate change is mainly caused by anthropogenic reasons. Discuss. So in this regard, or it can be, do you agree? Explain. Climate change is caused by mainly due to anthropogenic reasons. Do you agree? Explain. So in this regard, your perspective is being asked. So it's a mandatory that should be writing conclusion. So you should be bringing out your perspective regarding the answer. Okay. So the structure regarding an answer should be like an introduction, like the body part as well as the conclusion part. To show you the importance of this, imagine a person is writing an answer, say a 10-mark answer with say 150 word and 150 word long paragraph is been written. It's not been divided into anything, right? And another person is dividing the same contents into different parts, like as challenges, like the prediction techniques, and what are the importance of monsoon, why it is important to predict monsoon as a conclusion. So what happens is that from the perspective of the evaluator, one large paragraph and a divided paragraph, what happens is that even before going through the answer sheet, the evaluator will understand that, okay, the second person has addressed the question, has enough content to address the question. Right? So that initial impression, the evaluator will be reading your answer with that impression. So it is necessary to, properly structure your answer. Another thing is, when you're writing, say, challenges regarding monsoon prediction. So you will think, you have finished writing the challenges and then you are writing the techniques. Then probably you'll think about another challenge you missed out. So you shouldn't write the next challenge under the subheading or under techniques associated. So you shouldn't be writing here and there. Rather than that, you should be properly structuring your answer. Okay. The next thing is subheadings. Now subheadings, they are important in the sense, as I said, before even going through your answer, this will project that the person has addressed the question. So there is an easy way to give subheadings. For example, in this question, the model question regarding the monsoon, what are the prediction techniques and the challenges, right? So it should be written like challenges associated with monsoon prediction, prediction techniques used. So these kind of subheadings should be given. So what happens is that, it will be easy for the evaluator to understand that you have addressed the question. Now this part is really important in addressing the question. While going through the question itself, take the keyword from the question itself, right? And give it as subheading. So I mean, why it is important in the sense, one, it will project that your knowledge, you have addressed the question. Another thing is that, like, you will be understanding, okay, these are the two aspects I need to address in the question. So it means you won't be deviating from your answer. You won't be deviating from the question. Okay. So subheadings are really important. Always try to, like, I'm not saying, like, you should be writing introduction, should be writing conclusion, nothing like that. Rather than the major aspect of the question should be broken down and subheading should be given for that. For example, like, climate change is due to anthropogenic reasons. Explain or discuss. So you should be writing what are the causes of the climate change, how it is, like, related with anthropogenic causes. What are the natural factors associated with climate change? So natural factors should be another subheading. Likewise, it depends on, like, each and every question, but generally you have to, everywhere you have to try to give subheadings. Okay. And the next thing, like, the certain ways of writing answers. Like, if you're writing an answer, you have to always maintain a communication with the evaluator. As I said, like, your answer sheet is a representation of who you are or what kind of knowledge you got, right? So you should be presenting this in an easiest form for the evaluator to understand, and you can bring in or you can make use of certain things like pictures, flow chart, and things like that to, like, to convey your point. Suppose you are a person who is writing your answers in paragraph, right? You are writing a 30-word paragraph. So there are certain key elements in it. So you should be highlighting it. So what happens is that the evaluator will, going to the paragraph, will understand that, okay, this is a keyword. I mean, think about this. Will the person reread your answer and try to understand, okay, what this person is meaning, what this person meant through the answer sheet or answer. None of the evaluator will be rereading the answer. Rather than, like, the first go, what is the idea conveyed, and you'll be fetching marks based on that. So it's really important that, like, you're using various things like pictures and flow charts in your advantage, especially in the case of a geography answer. For example, if it's a question regarding the formation of monsoon or, like, the factors influencing the monsoon. If I'm explaining a monsoon without the aid of a picture, it will be super difficult to say that, okay, monsoon is making onset through the Arabian side. The monsoon is making onset through the Bay of Bengal side. So it will be very difficult to convey your point without the aid of a picture. So wherever you can include a picture, should be knowing that the picture should be relevant from the perspective or the context of the question. So you can make use of pictures, you can make use of the flow chart, you can use highlights. These kind of things should be done that it will become easy for the evaluator to correct your answer. Flow charts, like, certain questions will be having two major aspects asked, and we'll be having a minor aspect which we need to bring in. Again, coming back to the example, like, the prediction techniques as well as the challenges associated. So wherever you are writing some issues or challenges, should be writing the solutions for that. UPSC is not expecting a problem finder from you, rather than they are expecting a problem solver from you. So keep that in mind. Like, in this regard, right, if you are writing a challenge, we are not having enough word to give for the solutions part. So how will you be able to address the solutions while using very minimum words? The thing is, you can use flowchart. Probably, like, you can write solutions, you can bubble it, you can give different arrowheads, and you can write various solutions for that, right? Without taking, like, a complete sentence or anything. Nobody is saying, like, asking you to write in complete grammatical sentences, right? Or grammatically correct sentences. Rather than you can resort back to, like, incomplete sentences. The idea is that whatever you are trying to say, your point, your concept, your knowledge should be conveyed to the evaluator properly, right? So if you are writing, say, a 6-word incomplete sentence, but if the idea is conveyed through that, it's enough, right? You need not write a grammatically perfect complete sentence. Shouldn't be written like that. Okay. So in that regard, you can make use of the flowchart to convey your idea while taking less time and taking less words. Okay. Now the next thing regarding, like, okay, so these are the two things you need to keep in mind: addressing the question and impressing the evaluator, right? It should be making it easy for the evaluator. You can use various other things, like, in order to do that. These are the bare minimum things. So at least, like, in your initial answers, before writing your initial answers, try to keep these things in mind. Now we'll discuss some general tips right? That will give that will give a good impression, or that will leave a good impression with the evaluator. The first thing is a simple presentation. It is often said like it's easy to complicate a thing, but it is super difficult to simplify a particular concept. Like, if you don't know, if you cannot explain a concept in a simpler form, it means that you haven't understood the concept as such. So you should always be trying to present, or use a simple presentation. As I said, especially in the subjects like, say, geography, subject specialist is not correcting your answer. So you are writing your answer to a generalist person. So should keep in mind that, like, you can always actually, like, go in depth to the concept, and you can bring in complicated concepts and things like that. But should be keeping in mind, like, the person is not a subject specialist. So should be resorting back to simple presentation. If anyone, right, even if a higher secondary student is going through your answer, the idea should be conveyed. So this is how you have to write an answer, keeping in mind you are writing an answer to a student of higher secondary, +2 or +1, like, you are writing your answer to such a student. So what happens is that you will keep it simple, and the first reading itself, the idea will be conveyed. And with regard to geography answers, like, if you're using certain terms, and if you think, like, these terms, a common person won't be knowing it, so you should be explaining what it is. Or, like, if you're using some abbreviations, like, you should be explaining what it is. For example, say, intertropical convergence zone. It is usually written as ITCZ. So when you're writing an answer, the first place where you're mentioning the intertropical convergence zone, shouldn't just write it as ITCZ and assume that the evaluator will be knowing what is ITCZ. Shouldn't be written like that. Rather than the first time, you have to write intertropical convergence zone, bracket you can put ITCZ, then everywhere else you can use ITCZ, right, the abbreviation. But if there is an abbreviation, like, everyone will be understanding, like, say, GDP, or like, say, Indian Meteorological Department, you can write it as IMD. Everyone will be knowing IMD means, like, in the context it means Indian Meteorological Department. So that way, like, the idea is you should be keeping your answer, or should be following a presentation style that is really simple. You'll get good at it. Initially it will be super difficult to simplify things, but as you go on, like, as you write more and more answers, you'll get good at it. The next thing is, like, bringing different aspects and dimensions into your answer. Again, coming back to the model question, like, regarding the monsoon, right? So if, the challenges and prediction techniques, right? So if you're writing, say, conclusion or introduction to this answer, we have to write the importance of monsoon prediction. So mainly, like, the major aspect that will come to our mind is agriculture. So each and every question will be having, like, the biggest aspect will be there, biggest dimension will be there, and, like, you shouldn't just limit your answer to that one dimension. If you're thinking from the perspective of monsoon prediction, it's super important for agriculture, no doubt on that, should be addressing it. But at the same time, monsoon prediction is important for disaster management, like flooding conditions as well as drought events. Then the monsoon prediction is important for providing safe drinking water, or, like, solving the water crisis, or whatever it is, right? Or energy generation. So, like, in different aspects of the question, should be trying to bring that aspect into your answer sheet. Why? In the sense, like, this will leave an impression with the evaluator that you are aware of various ways in which the question is interrelated. Okay, so always try to bring in different dimensions into your answer. Like, if you're writing like an answer regarding a general topic, like, you should be bringing in, say, what are the societal dimension, what are the economic aspect, what are like the environmental aspect, like, different political aspect, or, like, what are the nationalistic or international dimension to this. So each of the answers should be interrelated with different dimensions of the question, right? Shouldn't just limit yourself to the major aspect of it. But you have to keep in mind, if you're missing out the major aspect, you'll be losing marks there. So while writing the major aspect, should be giving words for interrelating the concept with the other aspects of the question. Okay. Then the second one is substantiating your points. Now I'll demonstrate this point with an example. Suppose the question is regarding the characteristics of Indian monsoon. What are the characteristics of the Indian monsoon? And you are saying, like, the Indian monsoon, the rainfall decreases as one goes away from the sea, right? So you are saying, like, regions closer to the sea is receiving more rainfall. Interior locations are getting less rainfall. So a person is writing that as a characteristics of monsoon, like as the distance from the sea increases, the monsoon rainfall decreases. Okay, and another person is writing like this, the same line, and like another person is writing like, for example, Mumbai is receiving on an average 90 centimeters of rainfall. Meanwhile, Delhi is receiving just 55 centimeters of rainfall. So whatever you have said there, the second person is substantiating that point. So from the perspective of an evaluator, this will leave a huge impression with him. So whatever you are writing, your points, it should be substantiated, right? Another major thing is linking whatever you are writing with the question. Another example to demonstrate it, like suppose if you are writing, say, challenges associated with monsoon prediction. One major challenge regarding monsoon prediction is that it is dependent on various factors. And as of now, like our knowledge regarding these, how are these various factors influencing the monsoon is very limited. Okay, so like if you are writing this point, you are writing, okay, under the subheading challenges, you are writing monsoon is dependent on various factors like El Nino, Indian Ocean Dipole, topography. You shouldn't stop there. Rather than you should go back, you should go one step ahead, and you should say that because the monsoon is dependent on various factors, it is difficult to predict the monsoon or understand the monsoon, or it is difficult to make a linear equation related to the factors, something like that, right? So you should always link whatever you are saying from the context of the question. So the evaluator, like while going through the answer, shouldn't think like, okay, why it is written here, right? Nothing should be felt like in a misfit, or nothing should be felt like out of place, right? So you should always be linking it back to the question, right? It is important, like you are rereading the question. In the sense, if you are rereading the question after initially reading the question, it's advised to read the question again before concluding, or while writing the body paragraph and all. You have to reread the question. What happens is that if you're doing this, you won't be deviating from the actual question. Okay, and you should be able to link your points with the question in a better way if you are rereading the question. The second thing is using the small sentences. These are minor suggestions. Like you can always write, say, using various conjunctions. You can write a 30-word sentence, or you can write a 10-word or 12-word sentence. Think about from the perspective of an evaluator. Which one will be better conveying? Obviously, the small sentences, right? So try to use small sentences that will be better conveying, right? And it will be easy for you to structure it also. Then over explanation. This is, I have seen many students making this mistake in the sense, again, the same example like the challenges and monsoon prediction. Suppose a person is explaining the interplay of various factors influencing the monsoon, right? Like El Nino or IOD. Certain people will explain with 20 words what is El Nino, another 20 words for what is IOD, like how it is related with topography. So there you are deviating from the question, right? There are various other aspects like the challenges you need to write. You cannot just give say 70 words to addressing each of these factors. So if you're doing that, you're deviating from the question, right? So you shouldn't be deviating from the question, in the sense you shouldn't over explain certain concepts or go in depth to the question and we'll be trying to over explain it, right? Even though I said you have to substantiate your points, shouldn't end up over explaining. You have to maintain a perfect balance. It's almost about everything is about maintaining the balance, right? So it shouldn't be using more words and losing your time, but at the same time you should be substantiating your points. Maximum you'll be needing, say, more than more six or seven more words will be needed to substantiate your point. Shouldn't end up over explaining, right? So these are the tips which you have to, these are the tips regarding mains answers. And don't think the first answer itself, you'll be writing a perfect answer. Everyone, even the toppers, their initial answers were very bad. And everyone, while investing time in mains answer writing, they will keep on improving, right? And the initial answers, I would say, take your time, say 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and take your time and write your answers. And in this video, I'm giving you out a very probable question for this year's mains examination, it's regarding the monsoon itself. So initial answers, as I said, take say 20 minutes or 30 minutes, and think about, okay, how I can properly write a good answer. Okay, later on, after say 2 or 3 answers, you have to reduce this time to 7 minutes for a 10-mark question, and you have to reduce it to like 10 minutes for a 15-mark question. So you have to keep in mind that time is the most important constraint when you're writing your mains examination. Most people, like especially the first timers, what happens is that they will write say 15 questions, they will attend 15 questions and they will leave out 5 questions. Okay, so what happens is that even if you are writing a perfect answer, out of 10 you won't be getting more than say 8, or maximum will be 8, right? For majority of the people, even the best answers will be getting 7, right? So if you are writing 7, if you are like if you are leaving out 5 questions, you are losing out the base marks. So your primary aim should be complete the paper by writing average, at least average answer to all the 20 questions. And probably there will be questions like which you have already knowing, which you have already written and taken feedback. Such questions you can write with less time and you will be fetching more marks for that. Okay. So this is an highly probable question, like IMD predicts Indian monsoon rainfall but has often been off mark with its prediction. Bring out the challenges associated with monsoon prediction. So in my next video, I'll be coming out with the model answer for this question, and while keeping in the tips I have given in this particular video, write an answer for this and stay tuned for the model answer. Thank you.